All right, welcome to another episode of KUAM News Extra. I'm Andy Wheeler from my mobile studio here at home. And I want to thank you guys for watching wherever that may be that you're watching on TV8, TV11, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, KUAM News. We are all over the place and you can watch us anywhere. And thank you again. Today, my guest, Ray Shinohara, and I was looking for people to interview. I got a message that said, you got to interview this guy, Ray Shinohara from Green Valor. That's all the information I had. So we wanted to do a little deep dive into it. Ray, thank you for joining us here on the show, man.
Yeah, of course.
All right, so Green Valor, we're going to start at the beginning. I did a quick little dive into the Instagram, and one of the main things is veterans helping veterans. So you are a veteran yourself. I want to thank you for your service.
Thank you. Thank you. It's my pleasure.
And I've said this quite a bit. I've talked to people from the USO, from the VA, and in a nation that screams every chance we get to support our troops, when they retire and they do become veterans, there's a lot lacking in that department. I know strides have been made. I know programs have been put in place, but for some veterans, man, it's just tough to cut through the red tape. So we've got a lot to discuss. I think veterans, obviously, an important part of our country. So let's start at the beginning. Let's give a little brief history about your military service.
Sure. So I was a Marine, active duty for 11 years. I did 8 deployments in that short term. And I went 4 times to Iraq, 3 times to Afghanistan. So I definitely know the struggles when it comes to veterans coming back from the war. It was an awesome service. I was very proud to be a part of, the institution of the Marine Corps, but also representing, the island of Guam and, protecting here, home, my family and everything like that. Yeah.
So, we hear a lot, you see it in the movies and on the TV shows about that brotherhood that those served. And, a lot of times they're talking about that immediate unit, those men, those women that they served with immediately. But in a broader sense, I think veterans, there's just this huge veteran brotherhood, and so you decided that, I need to kind of stand up for my brothers that maybe wouldn't have a voice of their own, or they don't know who to turn to for help. So that's where Green Valor came from. Talk to us about the genesis of Green Valor.
Sure. So, it all really started when I was working for the soil and water conservation districts here on Guam. I wanted to be an agriculturalist, and I really wanted to help veterans with horticulture therapy, basically building things, making sure the time you have with your hands are being used for something good rather than drinking, smoking, the bad things we hear, some of the veterans going through and everything. We got to create this farming program specifically tailored to veterans to get them into the agriculture community. And it went really well. And then one day, and this was, we had a couple programs like that, specifically targeting veterans. And one day, one of them, an instructor from UOG came up to me and was like, Ray, you ever think about being a social worker? And I'm like, let me look into it. And I realized there was more, sitting down with the veterans that were a part of this farming program. They started talking, because I just recently moved back to Guam, started talking about all the problems that were happening here on Guam, not having the services, the resources out here that's necessary for their quality of life, the high rate of suicide that was happening, the high rate of homelessness that was happening, people struggling with combat stress or PTSD and all these other things. And I was like, I hear all these people, struggling. I hear their issues and stuff. Like, how do I, get them the help that they need? And I started going, up and down the resource listing, trying to figure out like why aren't these veterans getting help? And then realized that there was definitely issues with our VA that's here on Guam. There was definitely issues with all these services that were supposed to be helping veterans that weren't making it easily accessible for these individuals, but at the same time, understanding where these veterans were coming from. You know, these guys were, you know, if you really think about it, these guys were high-end athletes. You know, they put the uniform on, they put everything into their job and everything. And then they come back home and they just have too much pride to ask for help. And, you know, that's where Green Valor really came, was, you know, a bunch of us veterans came together and we were like, hey, let's go stand up for, you know, the guys and the gals that, you know, wore the uniform and see how they're doing. And with that, we started to figure out there was more problems. There was people who were struggling mentally, physically, and everything like that. And how could we connect them to, you know, to these services? And yes, some of these services and resources have long lines, and they have all sorts of issues with, you know, appropriate documents and everything, because not every veteran who gets out of the military, you know, is the same. You know, we get out with different, you know, levels of discharges. Some people, they do bad things in the military. They may have served their country, have Purple Hearts, Bronze Stars and everything, but they smoked some pot while they were in the military because of their PTSD or something like that. And, you know, they're struggling and suffering, and they don't have the same benefits as someone who got out, you know, with an honorable discharge. And, you know, that makes it a little interesting, because like, how do we find resources and services to help this individual, or at least, you know, have a community to help them out? Because I think that's, you know, you talked about the brotherhood or the camaraderie with veterans or service members. You know, a lot of people, when they get out of the military, they feel like that's gone. You know, it doesn't exist, but it does.
You know, there's a lot to unpack there in just that first statement that you said, and you kind of mentioned it. I mean, you go from these deployments where you're downrange and it's high speed, 24/7, high alert, and you've got that mission. You have a purpose, whatever that may be for that day, if it's just watch duty or if it's a patrol or something like that. And then coming back, you get out of the service, and maybe you get a little 9 to 5, or you decide to take some time off. And that I think some people may lose that sense of purpose, that sense of, you know, my mission. What do I do? And so you're right. All the bad things that they witnessed, that they went through, those hard, long hours, people turn to the bottle or they get into something that's not productive. So I think that right there creates this need.
Absolutely. And that's something that we kind of address when, you know, people meet members of Green Valor. And, you know, if you really, you know, really want to get down to it, we're not a nonprofit. We're just you know, a community-based organization or a bunch of volunteers. It started out with, you know, veterans helping veterans. It was a bunch of veterans that were helping. And then we inspired people, because a lot of the veterans were going to UOG that were helping out, that were a part of Green Valor. And, you know, other students would see what we were doing and they wanted to be a part of it. So it kind of, you know, evolved into the community helping the community, which was totally awesome. But we do definitely bring those military values into place, of purpose, of, you know, duty, service, of responsibility and accountability for what we do, because we're not going to be doing, you know, something in the community and be selfish with it. We want to be selfless and, you know, reach out to the community, whether it's helping them with mental health issues, whether it's, you know, as either peer supports, because some of us have, you know, specific certifications and stuff that we could use into the community. And you know, it's just amazing how, you know, these group of people can just come together and help a community with no expectations of getting anything back, because we haven't got anything. You know, the donations and stuff that we have, it was because we posted something and someone was just like, hey, I want to help these guys out. We're going to give them, like, you know, a couple cases of water. That couple cases of water can definitely help out the mission that we're doing. And we've covered so many throughout the 6 years we've been doing this kind of stuff, whether it's, you know, cleaning up the cemetery, whether it's, you know, doing a PTSD and suicide, PTSD awareness and a suicide prevention, you know, stand in Agana and all over the island, whether it's, you know, going out and helping, you know, disabled veterans, building them like a garden in their property so they could have something to do and, you know, be more active and engaged, you know, in their community or just their small family, because a lot of these veterans, they struggle.
And you mentioned pride being a huge issue when you go from being a part of a bigger team to, you know, honestly being kind of out on your own. These veterans, they're not looking for a handout. You know what I mean? They're not looking for, hey, here's a check for however much, pay your bills. I mean, these guys, these men, these women, they're willing to work for it, put in that time, because it kind of brings them back to that sense of purpose, like you said.
Yeah,
And I mean, you put
absolutely.
the call out to clean the cemetery, you get a bunch of Marines showing up. That's about to be a pretty clean cemetery.
We try,
So,
we try.
and then you mentioned that, you know, it's not just the veterans helping veterans. You see the community support here for our veterans, that it's sad that we have to pick up the tab where, you know, maybe there are gaps in the system, but you know, the love and support people do have for the veterans, and they're willing to step up. So how big has Green Valor kind of grown over the past few years?
You know, honestly, it's really it's based off of what we were doing at the time. And you know, we could just put a message like on Facebook or Instagram, and people would want to come and help out. And you know, there was a time where, you know, we could get like, you know, 150 volunteers super easy. During this pandemic, it's a little bit harder because of all the cautionary things. So we've kind of moved a lot of our systems online, where, you know, we'll start up a Zoom call and we'll do, you know, a group session with veterans. And, you know, this is one of the things that we like to do: come together and share our stories and our struggles so we can help one another and build a community. And that's what we've been doing for the holidays. That's one of our biggest events that we do. But this year it was a little harder because of the whole, you know, pandemic. So we converted everything to on Zoom, and we were there, you know, for a couple hours pretty regularly at a certain place of the week. And we reached out to a lot of these veterans that were struggling, and nobody knew that they were going through some stuff. And it was just, you know, hey, if you're going through some stuff, why don't you give me a call, or, you know, jump on the Zoom, because, you know, that's what we're there.
That's a huge point right there. The ones that, you know, there are those that have those signs that, hey man, they're really going through it. I can feel it hitting the bottle or whatever it may be. But there are those that don't even realize they have these issues. You know, I'm sure in training, you're just kind of told to suck it up, carry on, you know, pick yourself up and keep moving. So, okay, you know, when you get out into the civilian world, my life doesn't have to be as high speed as a, you know, the gunny out there on the front lines. So people think that, you know, oh, they're not showing any signs, they're fine. But that's not the case.
Or it could be, you know, and, you know, I definitely did this when I was younger, but sometimes you have like your older uncle in the fiestas, and he's sitting in the back, and everybody's just like, oh, that's Uncle, you know, that's Uncle John. He's crazy. He went to Vietnam or something, you know. And what we don't realize is he needed someone to talk to. He may not get along with everybody because he views the world differently than everybody else, but it doesn't mean that he doesn't yearn for that communication, that sense of belonging, because, you know, he probably lost a lot of his guys, you know, in the war, or he disconnected with his guys, you know, from his unit or something, or he just doesn't have anybody to talk to and share commonality with. And that's what I kind of, you know, we started Green Valor to bridge those gaps. And one of the biggest things that we had in the veteran community is there's different eras. And you definitely see it. You have the Vietnam era, you have the Iraq, Afghanistan era, you have the Desert Storm dudes, and nobody really likes talking to each other because our stories are all different. You know, you talk to an Iraq, Afghanistan guy, he just wants to talk about war and stuff. The same thing with the Vietnam guys sometimes, and sometimes they don't even want to talk about that stuff. And it really depends on like the audience, but being there and having it accessible to be like, hey man, we don't have to talk about anything. We just have a beer together, you know, and just see how you're doing. And then you'll start realizing, you know, all those built up feelings that they had of, you know, guilt, shame, or whatever from the war, you'll also start, you know, bringing out. And then the sense of, you know, what actually was happening out there, because a lot of these guys who get out, they do 4 years. They may not totally understand, you know, the mission of the military or what it actually happened in the war, or where it progressed to, why we went out. Because, you know, if we were talking about Iraq like 10 years ago, people would be talking about, oh, we were there for the oil, you know, why were we there in Afghanistan? Oh, we were looking for Osama bin Laden. But you know, what happened in Iraq? We found Saddam Hussein, you know, we try to build the, you know, the government back. We, you know, in Afghanistan, we found Osama bin Laden, and then we're still out there right now. So a lot of these individuals, like they have issues now because they feel like what they did in the military didn't mean anything, because it's still happening. And, you know, for us to come and help, you know, individuals process those kind of ideas and those thoughts, like it could be a huge game changer in their quality of life, because they're the ones suffering with that struggle of not knowing, or, you know, not understanding what actually happened.
Yeah, and these Zoom sessions that you have, again, it's not, sit down, hey, tell me your feelings. Just have a
Yeah.
chat. Have a chat with someone. There's no therapist, I don't believe, unless
Yeah.
you're looking at getting some. But, it's just guys having a chat. And it doesn't matter the conflict they were in. I'm sure if you brought someone from the Revolutionary War here today, there would be a lot of commonalities there in that
Yeah.
soldier mentality. Go back to Roman centurion, he would
Mhm.
be able to have the same conversations with someone who was just in Afghanistan 3 years ago.
Yeah.
Because at the core of it, there's a lot of similarities. It never changes, as they say. So some of these guys just need someone to listen to. You don't have to analyze their problems. You don't have to break it down and say, well, here's my report on what you're feeling. You just need
Yeah.
somebody to talk to. And that's, I think, invaluable.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely.
So I saw on Instagram, you guys do some stuff. You have the Zoom and also ways that people can help out, especially if you love pizza. What's that all about?
So we had this project and of with the homeless community, but in this particular case, we a coupon for 30 days of pizza. So a person from our team was like, "Hey, let's go out into the homeless community and give them pizza for 30 days because we had to use one pizza a day, and we had two of them. So it was like, and we're going to go out into the community." And I was just like, "This sounds awesome, but we have to make it so like we get something out of it. So why don't we invite within the community and go out onto these adventures where we're looking for individuals that are homeless or houseless, and share, not video anything about the homeless or houseless individual. It's more of the experience, so people can understand like these guys are human beings too. A little compassion, it goes a long way. We can inspire these individuals to come out of homelessness because we're showing them compassion and care. And we had teachers come out with us. We had other social workers come out with us. We had a couple senators come out with us, and students and regular people. And this is where they were comfortable with. So if they wanted to really see homelessness, at the core, we went to some really outrageous places like underneath bridges. We went, to some of these places where we would consider crack dens. And but we came there with compassion and care, and we weren't judging anybody for their thing. We just wanted to know if they were okay and if they would like to share a pizza with us, whether it's sitting down and eating it with them or just having a small conversation just to see if they needed any hygiene stuff or seeing how they're doing. Just a quick quality of care, quality of life kind of check. And we found out a lot of things, and it was pretty interesting because we did it in the month of I believe it was January. And then right after was the point in time count for to count the homeless here on Guam. So we used that at the end to kind of go out and tell all the homeless individuals like, hey, there's going to be a point in time count. We need you guys to be prepared. They're going to bring you gifts. They're going to bring you canned goods and stuff like that. Like, and all they want to know is just your information so they could get more money and more resources out here to help you guys. And, for the most part, like, it worked. These guys were ready at 4 a.m. Like, where are these people? Like, and then, I do my follow-ups and check on them. They'd be like, Ray, they gave me a bunch of cans, but I don't have a can opener. I'm like, okay, hold on. Let me go purchase a bunch of can openers and stuff so we can help you out. And, that created a relationship between, us and those individuals that were out there so they could trust us because we've been doing this for a long time. And if they don't know us already, it's probably because we just miss them or whatever. But, for the most part, we're when we were bored, sometimes we would just go out and hang out with, homeless individuals on the side of the road just so we could have a conversation to see how they're doing. And they appreciated that kind of stuff. It wasn't always about the money or whatever, because my group never gives out money. Like, that's one of the number one rules. Like, if they want a meal, give them a full meal, give them whatever they want, because if that's what they need to live, by all means, this is what you need. So I'm going to give it to you. But when it comes to money, we don't want to deal with, anything, outside of the norm, like buying alcohol, cigarettes, and all this other stuff. That's not what we're out there for.
Yeah, and they just need to know, again, a lot of with the homeless, it's people dehumanizing them. You know what I mean? You're
Yeah,
not the cops trying to kick their door in and tell them, hey, you got to get away from here. We're going to take you in. Is anybody
yeah,
just there to help? Again,
yeah,
you talked about the veterans, just listening. With these guys, a simple meal, a drink,
yeah,
something, I think, it goes a long way, and it helps to bring a little bit of back of that humanity. And, it's not, hey, we fixed homelessness. It's just we're giving these guys the humanity to where they can maybe
yeah,
see for themselves that, there's a better way. There's a way that I can
yeah,
kind of work and get back to where I am. And, especially the veterans, like we said, being so mission oriented. And, of course, there are those that not a huge fan of the military industrial complex, but
yeah,
the actual men and women that serve, that are out there doing their duty for whatever reason that is, making huge sacrifices. And so we can support them instead of just kind of, all right, you did your time, thanks a lot, later, and then, not giving them the services that they require to be humans.
yeah.
Again, like you said, to be humans, to have that purpose, I think is pretty key. So you've got a decent team over there at Green Valor. Do you have a board of directors, or is this just kind
No,
of an every man for himself
yeah,
organization?
well, yeah. Honestly, it's really led by me and everything that, or when I was going to school and I had projects involved, a lot of my papers and my things based off of the work that I was doing. And, it holds me accountable for the actions I do. But I have also brought in so many other people. And if they had ideas, I was like, hey, let's go take it from, a social work perspective and try to like reach out to as many people, make the biggest impact, create change agents while we're on the way doing it. And it's worked out so far. We've never had a need for who's the boss or whatever. But if there were hard calls to make, it was usually me who made those calls, and it's worked out very well for the actions we were doing and the people we were helping.
So you're running a decentralized command structure. You can say that you got that from the Marines. It's okay.
Yeah. Kind of.
So you being a veteran and helping veterans, and kind of seeing this on the forefront, what do you think are some of the biggest issues facing veterans now that we need to fine tune? We need to get squared away. What are some of the big ones that you think we need to start really working on?
Yeah. So I guess, especially for right now, is the mental health issue that we have. With the pandemic, there's less interaction with the VA, which we barely had in the first place. So it makes it even worse for some of these individuals that are isolating themselves and everything. But establishing that link between all the veterans that are here on Guam to getting the resources and services that they need, especially when it comes to mental health. I'd say. Second to that, if not first, especially here on Guam, is getting a good accountability of how many veterans that are here. And that would definitely and drastically change, the kind of services and resource that we get here. But at the same time, like it'll also highlight the kind of, issues that we have here that we need to address, because there's a lot of veterans who are veterans. They'll tell people they're veterans all day long, but they're not using the services at the VA because they've lost faith in the system. And I think that's one of the biggest issues that we have is, a lot of, individuals, including myself, I have used, other nonprofits to help me with, my injuries that I've sustained, throughout the military instead of the VA. And that's sad. Like, I'm not saying the VA is bad. I think that it works. It just doesn't really work here.
It doesn't work efficiently, as far as
Yeah,
what I'm hearing.
yeah,
Whether it's a funding thing, government grants and whatnot, it just doesn't work efficiently. I've heard from you and from other veterans that the red tape to get something done, like, oh, you need to fill this out. Okay, well, where
yeah,
do I go to do that? Oh, you have to go do this. And then there's a bunch of hoops to jump through. And sometimes people just get turned off by the process.
yeah, yeah,
Oh, I don't want to do
absolutely.
all that. Never mind. It's a pain. It's a headache.
Yeah.
So tightening things up, running a tight ship, I think would be good. And what are some other things that you guys have working on?
So for us, one of the biggest things that we're working on right now is the mental health issue that's happening here. Being out there for the veterans, we just finished our PTSD awareness and suicide prevention campaign that we usually do every year. And it's actually taken us, till today. I still get phone calls from what we were doing before, and talking to veterans, on the daily about some of the issues that they're having, and pushing them to the resources that would help them. Other than that, like, things that we have planned is, helping the homeless community, trying to, end homelessness if we can out here, especially if you're a veteran. There's no reason a veteran should be homeless, especially with all the resources and services that are here. Maybe a little more attention in the mental health aspect to kind of get them on a better track and a better quality of life. Other than that, trying to do what we can here on the island, especially all the disparities that are happening that nobody really wants to address. If we get, any hints of it, like, we'll probably, stand up a little contingent and see what we could do as a community to address those issues.
And you've obviously got a lot going on, and this is a big job. Now, nobody's saying that, hey, next week, we're going to have a little Zoom meeting and it's all going to be fixed.
Yeah.
So it requires the help of the community at large. So how can people help out if they're looking to get involved with Green Valor?
Yeah. So we try to make, our posts pretty regularly on Instagram or Facebook. But if there's any issues, especially when it's addressing veterans, whether it's, mental health issues or, any issues that veterans don't understand, especially through the VA, contact us through the Instagram or the Facebook, and we'll definitely try to reach out to you and try to help you through whatever you're going through. Because there's a lot of veterans who don't even understand, how the VA system works, especially when it comes to disability compensation. And we actually have people we could help them out with those issues. And if they don't have the answers, then we'll refer them out to somebody who does, just to make sure that no veteran is getting left behind.
Are you looking for community help as far as, do you need more volunteers? Like, if you have someone with a skill set, like, oh, I review veteran law or policy or something. Are you looking for people to help out in the community? Because I know you said you're not really accepting cash, but what are some other ways that people can help out?
Yeah, if someone has a trade or a skill that they want to, help out in the community with, like, by all means, contact us. And, there's always work to be done in the community. And, whether it's us, getting a group and tackling whatever issues that are happening, then we'll definitely need someone to do that. But just reach out and see what you could do to help with them. Be a part of our conversations when we have our Zoom meetings, or reach out to any of the veteran organizations, because I'm not a nonprofit, but there's other nonprofits within the, in the community that definitely need help, that are literally starting right now and are trying to make a huge impact in the community. And I'm definitely helping them out with whatever I can, but I'm not a nonprofit. I don't plant my feet anywhere that I go to. I find issues within the community and I try to address them as a social worker or as a veteran who's definitely interested in, having a better community, especially when we're talking about, individuals or communities struggling. So,
and as that sign says above your shoulder, no veteran should struggle alone. Help is here, and it is here. Yeah. And I think the main thing is people just need to know that you guys are there. You're fighting for them, and they just need to reach out. So Green Valor on Facebook, on Instagram, go search, send them out. If you're not a veteran, but you still want to help, you can shoot them a message and just see how you can get involved. And Ray, I mean, when you got out of the service, your service didn't stop. So we appreciate you for that, man.
Thank you.
All right, Green Valor, guys, go and help it out. It's veterans helping veterans, wonderful cause. Ray, thanks so much for joining us, man. Anything you want to say before we let you roll out?
No. Wherever you are, if you're struggling, there's always help.
Right on, Ray. Great way to end it right there. We appreciate it. Thank you guys for watching.
Thanks, Andy.